It was in this position that 12-year-old Faustino Oro, also known as Lionel Chessi, after Lionel Messi, the incredible footballer, because both are from Argentina, ripped apart the Black King position. There's a reason he's the youngest IM ever. We're going back to the starting position. This is European Club Cup chess. He's playing against Andrei Volokhin, an incredibly strong Ukrainian grandmaster. He opens with e4 and he goes on this absolutely fearless attack. They're over the board. We get ourselves a Najdorf variation, one of the most fighting variations in all of chess. Such dynamic, rich positions. Already, after both players castling and keeping their coaches proud, we reach this moment where White has many candidate moves. Here are some drawn on the board, but Faustino plays Queen to d3, a sideline, a trendy idea right now, springing that opening surprise. By the way, Lotus Chess, link is in the description. If you want to spring opening surprises yourself, do go and have a look. It just passed 100,000 downloads. Thank you to everyone who's checked it out, supporting this channel, supporting many chess channels. You know, Agadmator's raving about it. It's seriously good, free to get started, gamifies the learning opening experience and teaches you that kind of brand of fighting chess, giving pawns, giving pieces, getting initiative. It's awesome. Have a look, link down below. Let's crack on here, because the bishop develops to cover this hole that you've created, but in doing so you gain time and space. White keeps on getting the bits out, the knight centralizes. This was how the pawn structure was now changed. Really reminds me of the battles that Magnus and Fabi had here. You know, what do we notice? Well, White's trying to get the pawn majority going over here. Black often fights back over here, but it's all about timing. You know, say you drop back with knight e8, preparing f5. Well, then there's knight a5. Yes, looks weird, but now you can't go a5, you can't go b6, or you hit c6 with the knight, and b4's coming, a4's coming. Nice initiative for White. So that is why pawn a5. It stops the knight from jumping. It threatens a4. If you get kicked, well, knight c5's coming, initiative to black. So that's why pawn a4 leaves the hole, but does an important job. We now get rook fe8, king h1, and it sets up this aggressive pawn push. Is it the right plan? Now, arguably not. g6, the best lines when you're going with the engine here is actually g4, h4, g5, h5. Attack with those pawns. Why? Because when you go f4, yes, you get to roar like a mighty chess lion. Here's footage of Hans Niemann doing it with aplomb. But the problem is that after pawn takes, bishop takes, look at the dark squared counterplay, which black has now got in compensation for less space. You know, the knights could hop, the bishop's now had its eyes opened. Queen b6 is very strong to look at the weakened diagonal in combination with knight e4 ideas potentially. It's real nice play. This knight's a bit clumsy, could maybe enter the game, but then this comes. Black's doing quite well, but it wasn't quite played in the most incisive way. First off, swapping these knights, arguably not the best. Does stop the knight d4 stuff, but also you lose out on some of your own knight jumps options as black. This one rotates around, but what to say? But Faustino just outplays his 2600 GM here. We now see the bishop kept on the board. You so often want to keep that bishop bare. Now the seahorse is spawned. This bishop covers a load of jumps and looks at the king. Remember that one. Bishop backing up. King g2. Both players improving, but arguably black not so much. Kind of shuffling. Are they really making progress? Well, they do now look to double the rooks here, but Faustino's having none of it. Takes. Queen recaptures, and now Fausti pounces on the opportunity to push the g-pawn. This queen covers the invasion here so that this one can't get in, and a blunder is made by black. You should actually bring the rook into the game, which makes a lot of sense. Somehow I prefer rook d8 to cover this pawn. Rook f8 also good. looking at the pressure which is on the f7 pawn. Although what if the white player switches to the h-file, you've blocked your king? It's difficult to say. Of course the computer calls it all level because it sees everything. But this is not good. For the simple reason, you can take, not played. Now pawn takes is just horrible. I mean, look at that passed pawn. This is just very good for white. You can actually enter the endgame, clamp on the structure, bring round the bishop, and you're really in some trouble with this powerful rook. Pawn's clamped, passed pawn. But we didn't see takes. By the way, queen takes not working, or you crash through on f7, hence this next move. Again, if you take, it's not just about the check. It's about the mate. As the rook slides to the h-file, you have to start playing stupid moves like giving up pieces, and you only stave off the mate. It still comes. So let's run back. No takes. Queen f8, definitely best to stay on the dark squares. Sorry, that's my phone ringing. Let me silence that one here. Sorry about that, had to take a call there. Magnus was on the blower, asking me if I wanted to be his second at the upcoming St. Louis chess. Kicks off tomorrow. I'm unfortunately tied up, but it would have been good fun. I've asked Alan if he can cover. The queen's attacked as mentioned here. Queen f8 best, but we see the queen slide here, not good. Queen h4, and you're not covering your dark squares. Rook f8 is best, but such a difficult move to play. Take the king's flight square. We see rook e8 on the board, rook h1, threatening a nasty check. Not quite, mate. The bishop does back up, and this was our starting position. How did Fausti continue here? Did he check and kick the king and then nothing? No, he didn't. What do you think the move is? Well done if the idea of absolutely smashing through that man cave came to you here. The king's being woefully exposed. If you capture, not played, the trouble is you just opened the f-file and the king can't move away from this check. Where to go? So you actually have to give up the queen, and this is completely lost. You can just trade pieces, nothing too fancy. Once the d pawn drops, not only will the king be exposed and all sorts of nasty checks going after the loose pieces, but the pawn will be running. You'll have to give up material to stop it. So let's run back. No takes. Instead we saw check. King stepping up. Very astute by Faustino, understanding that's actually the best move. Rook goes and looks to check. We now see the bishop slide in with check. Obviously you don't want to step into the discovery and then get fossilized, lose your queen or mated, whatever's best. So king f8 played, and now rook e1's great. Cutting the escape route there. Black could check here, but keeps that one on tap for the time being. Plays the very smelly pawn to f6. Never play it, says Ben Feingold. And the most incisive move here to keep a +5 advantage is bishop h6. And there's no knockout line. It's just really, really unpleasant. Forces black to keep finding defensive moves. Let's say a line like this. Now you're going to crash through. So queen covers once more, but then the queen can step here. And you're threatening to take with check because rook and queen are converging on this square and the queen's overloaded doing two jobs. So you have to start playing knight fianchettos. That's when you know you're in the house of pain. Bishop bounces back. I mean, look at it all. It's really, really horrendous. You can just slowly dissect the position. You get stuff like this. So that was best, but missed. Takes, queen takes, check, blocked, and you're forcing the queens off the board. You know, the queen can't move, pinned to the king. And this is the moment where Faustino goes horribly wrong, I'm afraid to say. Now, what should he do? Takes at this point in time. King takes, and this endgame's actually winning. No knight d3 check, forking. Bishop is covering. Don't forget about that lone one. It's a bit like those shorts that they do on Chessbrah where the bishop's way off in the distance. Don't forget about it. Now you can do something like this, but the king marches in, and it's not just about the g-pawn, but it's actually about these mating nets. You know, this is one way to actually get spangled in the corner. I'm not sure if that's a word, but something like that. So taking was best, but not played. Faustino will be kicking himself because they'd made time control. He's got 30 odd minutes on the clock. He plays rook e8 check. And it gets the double question marks of doom, loses on the spot. Now the queen can't take, it's pinned to the king of course. So you have to take with the king or else you're checkmated. And this is the follow-up point, bishop g6, pin and win the game. And that should be all she wrote, right? You know what, takes with check he maybe was looking at. King goes somewhere, what to do. You know, ultimately, this one's going to drop soon, right? I don't know, let's make a random move. Or let's say queen takes, something like this. And you're just losing the game. The queen's too strong, as mentioned. But what Faustino's missed is that you don't just have to take with check. You don't just have to take here. There's a killer counter shot he's just missed. It's rook f2 check. Poor Faustino. He's just missed this idea. Obviously, if the king moves, the queen drops. And that's a lost game. And if you take, then you go to Forktown. Population, poor Faustino. These are some of the painful lessons that you learn on your way to becoming world champion, which who knows, maybe one day he could do. Certainly an incredible talent, I'm sure we can all agree, outplaying his opponent here. Really incredible game, just stumbled at the finish. Hope you enjoyed. Do check out Lotus Chess, link down below, and have a look at the video on screen. See another incredible game from Faustino against Hikaru. Just unreal scenes. Thanks very much for watching and see you soon. Cheers.